A 90-year-old woman stands at the plaintiff's table. She's wearing a pale blue cardigan, the kind with small buttons that look like they've been fastened and unfastened 1,000 times. Papers slip from her hands and she bends slowly to retrieve them, one hand gripping the table edge for balance. Her son stands across from her, pointing. His suit looks expensive. His watch catches the light. Everything about him says success, confidence, control. "You're embarrassing yourself," he says. The words carry across the courtroom like they're meant for more than just her. A few people in the audience exchange uncomfortable glances. No one expects to see this. A grown man speaking to his elderly mother like she's a problem to be managed. Judge Caprio removes his glasses. He sets them down on the bench with deliberate care. What happens next forces the son to reconsider everything he just said. The son's voice gets louder. His words echo off the courtroom walls, each syllable carrying more confidence than consideration. You can hear it in his tone, the belief that volume equals authority. The elderly woman grips a worn envelope against her chest. You can see the paper's been folded many times, softened by years, not battles. The edges are frayed. There's a water stain on one corner, faint but visible. This isn't courtroom paperwork. This is something she's kept close for a long time. He stands with his shoulders back, chin up, the posture of someone who's used to being in charge, used to being right. You don't even understand what this case is about. People in the audience shift in their seats. A woman in the third row whispers something to the man beside her. No one speaks, but you can feel discomfort spreading through the benches like a slow wave. This isn't how families are supposed to look in public. Judge Caprio watches without interrupting. His hands are folded on the bench. His expression gives nothing away, but his eyes track everything. The son's posture, the mother's trembling hands, the way she keeps her gaze fixed forward instead of at him. "I understand," she says. Her voice barely reaches the microphones. Her son scoffs. "You forget things. You misplace things. And now you think I stole from you?" The accusation hangs there. The mother tightens her grip on the envelope. She keeps looking forward, not at him. Judge Caprio leans forward slightly, hands folded. The son paces half a step. "I take care of her. I drive her to appointments. I handle her bills. And this is how she repays me, dragging me into court?" His voice cracks, not from sadness, from wounded pride. The mother's face shows no anger, just something quiet. Humiliation. "Ma'am," Judge Caprio says, cutting through the tension, "why are you here today?" The son inhales to answer. Judge Caprio lifts one finger. "I asked her." The elderly woman lowers the envelope to the table. She straightens her back as much as she can. "I'm here because the money in my account disappeared, and I didn't give anyone permission." Murmurs ripple through the audience. The son shakes his head quickly. "That's not what happened." Judge Caprio keeps his eyes on the mother. "Ma'am, who told you to file this case?" For the first time, the son doesn't speak immediately. She doesn't look at her son. She looks at the envelope. "No one told me," she says carefully. "I went myself." "That's impossible. You don't even drive downtown alone." Her eyes lift. "Yes, I do." It's a simple fact, no defiance attached. Judge Caprio tilts his head, observing. The son recovers quickly. She gets confused. She panics when she can't find something and assumes the worst. The mother opens the envelope with deliberate care, pulling out several folded bank statements. The paper shakes slightly, but she doesn't withdraw. You can see dates circled in blue ink, numbers highlighted in yellow, notes written in the margins in small, careful handwriting. This isn't panic. This is preparation. "I went to the bank because my balance was lower than it should be. I asked the teller to print everything. She was very helpful. A young woman named Maria." The detail catches people off guard. Names, specifics. This isn't confusion talking. The son folds his arms across his chest, defensive now. His jaw is set. His eyes dart briefly toward the gallery, as if checking whether people are buying this. "May I see those, ma'am?" Judge Caprio asks gently. She walks forward, each step measured, cane tapping softly. The sound carries through the quiet. She hands the documents to the bailiff, who passes them up. Judge Caprio scans the pages. The son speaks faster. I transferred funds, yes, but for her benefit. The roof needed repairs, the plumbing, medical adjustments. The judge doesn't look up. Was there an emergency? There could have been. The phrasing sounds awkward. The mother shakes her head gently. My roof is fine. It's been fine for years. Judge Caprio flips to the second page, then the third. These withdrawals weren't made directly to a contractor. They were transferred electronically to another account. He looks up. Sir, whose account received these funds? The son opens his mouth, closes it. He calls it protection. She calls it betrayal. The son clears his throat, eyes fixed forward instead of at his mother. My account, but only temporarily. I manage her finances. I have power of attorney. A few heads nod. It sounds official, responsible. Judge Caprio doesn't react immediately. He lets the statement sit there for a moment. Power of attorney, he repeats, as if testing the weight of the words. When was that established? The son answers quickly. Earlier this year, after her last hospital visit, we agreed it would be easier. We? The judge asks. The elderly woman shifts her cane. The small scrape against the floor cuts through the quiet. I signed something. He said it would help him pay my electric bill when I was tired. Her voice carries something underneath, not confusion, but recognition. Judge Caprio folds his hands on the bench. Ma'am, were you declared legally incompetent by a court? The son reacts immediately. Of course not. That's insulting. I wasn't asking you, Judge Caprio says quietly. The temperature drops slightly. The mother shakes her head. No. Did a doctor evaluate your cognitive ability? No. Did you intend to give your son permanent authority over your finances? She hesitates. The son steps forward slightly. She trusted me. That's the point. Judge Caprio's eyes lift slowly to meet his. Trust is not ownership. The statement settles heavily between them. The son presses on, defensive energy rising. She forgets things. Last month she misplaced her purse and accused the neighbor. She worries too much. I was preventing problems. The mother straightens her back. I misplaced it in my own closet, and I apologized. A few people in the gallery exchange glances. The son's narrative is starting to show cracks. Judge Caprio turns to the paperwork in front of him again, studying it more carefully now. You said the power of attorney was established earlier this year, he says slowly. These withdrawals began before that date. The son freezes. Just for a fraction of a second, but it's there. They were emergency transfers. We discussed them. The judge taps lightly on the paper. The timeline doesn't suggest discussion. The mother speaks quietly. I found out after, when I went to the bank alone. That word, alone, hits harder than anything else said so far. Judge Caprio picks up the bank document fully now, scanning it again, slower this time. His brow furrows slightly as he reads one line, then another. The son watches him. No more pacing, no more raised voice, just waiting. Judge Caprio looks up. His expression has changed. He reads the transfer line aloud. Date, amount, destination. Then he looks directly at the son. Sir, this document shows something you didn't mention, and it changes the situation considerably. The smile leaves the son's face slowly. Judge Caprio lowers the document onto the bench with deliberate care. Not dramatic, not rushed, just precise. You stated that these were emergency transfers for your mother's benefit. Yes, the son replies quickly. And yet, the judge continues, sliding the paper slightly forward. The first withdrawal occurred 3 weeks before any power of attorney document was signed. The son blinks. We had already discussed it. Show me where, the judge replies calmly. No response. Someone in the gallery coughs quietly. Judge Caprio adjusts his glasses and reads directly from the statement. On March 3rd, $10,000 transferred. On March 12th, another $8,000. On March 18th, $5,000. Each date lands like a measured strike. The mother's fingers curl tighter around her cane. The son straightens, trying to reclaim ground. I was preparing for upcoming expenses. I anticipated repairs. Judge Caprio looks up slowly. You anticipated? Yes? And so you moved $23,000 into your personal account. The word personal doesn't need emphasis. It carries its own weight. The son hesitates. Just enough. It was temporary. The judge studies him for a long moment. Then he turns slightly toward the elderly woman. Ma'am, did you authorize any of these transfers in March? She shakes her head. No. The answer is not loud, but it's solid. A thin sheen of sweat forms near the son's temple. His arms are no longer crossed. They hang stiffly at his sides now. Judge Caprio flips the page again. There's something else, the transfer memo line. He adjusts the paper, scanning it carefully. It doesn't reference roof repair. It doesn't reference medical expenses. A pause. It references business stabilization. The words fall flat and final. Murmurs ripple through the benches. Not loud, just enough to be felt. The elderly woman's breath catches, barely audible. The son's eyes flicker, panic trying to stay hidden behind calculation. That was just a label, a banking formality. Judge Caprio removes his glasses. The gesture is small, but it changes the temperature of the room. Sir, that account number receiving the funds, it matches your registered business account. Another murmur from the gallery. The mother's hands tighten slightly on her cane. You didn't transfer this money to protect your mother, the judge continues calmly. You transferred it to protect yourself. The son opens his mouth. No words come. The illusion cracks, not loudly, but irreversibly. Judge Caprio leans back slightly. This just became something else entirely. He laughs, but it doesn't sound the same. Shorter, tighter, a sound with no room behind it. This is ridiculous, the son says, forcing the corners of his mouth upward. You're twisting this. I was trying to keep everything afloat. Judge Caprio doesn't blink. Your business was failing. It was struggling, the son corrects quickly. Temporarily. And I was under pressure. Anyone would have done the same. The mother's head lifts slowly. No, she says. The word is soft, but it lands like a verdict of its own. The son turns toward her, frustration flashing across his face. You don't understand how hard it is out there right now. She studies him quietly. There's no anger in her expression, only something deeper. I worked through 3 recessions, and I never took what wasn't mine. Judge Caprio folds his hands on the bench. Did you ask her for help? The son hesitates. That's not the point. It is exactly the point, the judge says. The son shifts his stance again, shoulders rigid, jaw clenched. His earlier dominance is gone, replaced by defensive energy that flickers unpredictably. I've spent years helping her, he insists, driving her, managing paperwork, making sure she doesn't get scammed. I deserved something. The word deserved hangs there. Judge Caprio leans forward slightly. Deserved implies agreement. Was there an agreement? No answer. The son rubs his forehead briefly, a small crack in composure. I've sacrificed time, money, opportunities. She doesn't even realize how much I do. The mother's fingers tighten around her cane again. Her eyes glisten, not from weakness, but from recognition. I never asked you to sacrifice. I asked you to visit. That hits differently. The son's breathing grows more uneven now. He looks toward the audience as if searching for validation, but finds only stillness. Judge Caprio picks up the bank statement again, but this time he doesn't read it. He simply holds it. Sir, caregiving doesn't create ownership. It creates responsibility. The son's voice sharpens again, but there's strain beneath it. You don't know what it's like to carry everything alone. Then you should have said you were struggling, Judge Caprio replies. Not helped yourself to someone else's security. The mother whispers, I saved that money for peace. The son's shoulders sag just slightly. For the first time, he looks uncertain. Judge Caprio tilts his head, studying him. Let me ask you something. Do you still believe you were protecting her? This time, the son doesn't answer immediately. The courtroom waits. She doesn't hesitate. Yes, Judge Caprio had asked quietly, almost casually, "Do you still drive yourself to the bank?" And she answered without looking at her son. "Yes, I do." The son exhales sharply. That's not safe. She insists on doing things alone.
The mother turns her head slowly toward him. There's no tremble in her gaze now. "I've been driving longer than you've been alive, and I passed my test last year." A faint ripple of restrained reaction moves through the gallery. Judge Caprio studies her carefully. "Ma'am, do you pay your own bills?" "Yes." "Do you balance your checkbook?" "Yes." "Do you know how much money you had before these transfers?" She nods. $82,417. The precision silences everyone. The son looks down. Judge Caprio absorbs the weight of that detail. The earlier narrative, confusion, incompetence, helplessness, dissolves in the face of specificity. "Sir," he says calmly, turning to the son, "your mother appears to have a clear grasp of her finances." "She forgets small things," the son insists weakly. "Names, dates." Judge Caprio doesn't flinch. "We're not discussing names. We're discussing $23,000. The mother's hands still tremble, but not from uncertainty. From emotion held back for too long. "I trusted him. I thought if something ever happened to me, he would help." The son shifts again, but there's no room left to dominate the space. His shoulders have rounded inward, posture collapsing by inches. "I was helping," he mutters. Judge Caprio's voice remains steady but firmer now. "Helping requires transparency." The son looks at his mother, really looks at her, perhaps for the first time in this hearing. "I didn't want to worry you," he says quietly. Her reply is immediate. "You worried me more by hiding it." Judge Caprio folds his hands deliberately. "Why didn't you tell her?" The question is not loud. It doesn't need to be. The son inhales slowly. His eyes dart briefly toward the bench, then toward the floor. His voice lowers for the first time, stripped of performance. "Because," he says, barely above a whisper, "I was afraid she'd say no." The admission hangs in the air, and it sounds very different from protection. For the first time his voice lowers, not out of respect, out of exposure. "I was afraid she would say no." The words linger like something fragile. The earlier arrogance, the raised voice, the pacing, the dismissive laughter, feels distant now. What stands in its place is smaller, rawer. Judge Caprio doesn't respond immediately. He lets the admission settle, giving it the weight it deserves. "Afraid of what?" he asks calmly. The son exhales slowly, rubbing his hands together as if trying to generate warmth. "Afraid she would see me failing. Afraid she would think I couldn't handle it." The mother's expression shifts, not to anger, but to something more painful. Heartbreak. Her fingers tighten around the edge of the plaintiff's table, the envelope now resting forgotten beside her. "You are my son," she says quietly. "I don't measure you by money." He doesn't look at her, can't look at her. "My business was collapsing," he continues, voice uneven now, loans piling up, investors pulling out. "I kept telling myself it would recover. I just needed time." "So you borrowed time," Judge Caprio says evenly. The son nods faintly. "I plan to replace it, every dollar. I swear I did." "But you didn't tell her," the judge replies. The son's jaw tightens again, but not in defiance, in shame. "If I asked, it would make it real. It would mean I needed help." The mother steps forward slightly, leaning on her cane. The courtroom is quiet enough to hear the faint creak of the wood under her weight. "You think I would have said no?" she asks. He hesitates. The answer catches in his throat. "Yes," he finally whispers. Her eyes fill, not dramatically, not theatrically. just enough to blur the sharpness of disappointment. I've helped you your whole life, through school, through your first apartment, through your divorce. The son's breathing falters. His hands come up briefly, covering his mouth as if trying to hold something inside. I was trying to protect you, he insists weakly. From what? Judge Caprio asks again, more pointed this time. The son finally looks up, but not at the judge, at his mother. From failing, he says, from seeing me fail. Judge Caprio leans back slightly, studying him. Failure is asking for help and being told no, not asking at all. That is pride. The son swallows hard. I didn't want to look weak. The mother's reply comes without hesitation, without cruelty, but with absolute clarity. You look weaker now. The truth lands clean. The son's shoulders drop fully this time. The performance is gone. The defences have thinned to nothing. Judge Caprio folds his hands again, his expression softer but still firm. You chose deception over honesty, he says evenly, and in doing so you damaged the one thing more valuable than that account. The son closes his eyes briefly. Trust. The word doesn't need to be spoken. Everyone in the courtroom knows it. The son stands where he began, same spot, same courtroom, but nothing about him feels tall any more. His shoulders curve inward, his hands hang loosely at his sides. The earlier sharpness in his voice has dissolved completely. Judge Caprio studies him for a long moment, then he speaks, and his tone shifts. Not warmer, not colder, sharper, more direct. Let us separate emotion from responsibility. The words cut through whatever sympathy might have been building. The son looks up, uncertain where this is going. You were under pressure, the judge continues. Your business was failing. You were afraid to ask for help. The son nods faintly, grateful perhaps for the acknowledgement. But Judge Caprio isn't finished. But none of that grants you the right to take what is not yours. The statement lands clean and final. Judge Caprio lifts the bank statement again, but this time he doesn't read from it. He explains, as if teaching a lesson that should have been learned decades ago. When someone grants you power of attorney, or even trust, you assume fiduciary duty. That means your interests come second, always. The son swallows. The mother stands quietly, her eyes never leaving her son's face. You don't get to decide that your emergency overrides her security, the judge continues. She's 90 years old. That account wasn't business capital, it was stability, medical care, peace of mind. The word peace lingers longer than the others. The son opens his mouth, perhaps to argue again. Judge Caprio raises one hand, not aggressively, just firmly. No, it's not loud, but it's absolute. For the first half of this hearing, you attempted to control the narrative. You questioned her memory. You questioned her judgment. A pause. You questioned her dignity. The courtroom absorbs that in complete stillness. The son lowers his gaze. And now Judge Caprio says evenly, the facts are clear. He straightens slightly behind the bench. I am ordering full repayment of the $23,000. Repayment will be immediate. If the funds are not available in full within 30 days, a formal judgment will be entered against you. The words are delivered without emotion, but they carry weight. The son's head snaps up slightly. And, the judge adds, court costs will be assessed to you. A murmur ripples through the gallery. Not shock, recognition. The power has shifted completely. But Judge Caprio is not finished. He leans forward slowly, removing his glasses once more. Understand this clearly, he says, eyes locked on the son. Power of attorney is not power of ownership, it is power of protection. And when protection becomes exploitation, the law intervenes. The son nods weakly, but his expression has changed. Something else flickers there now, fear, not of money, of consequence, of what comes next. The mother exhales, not triumphantly, not dramatically, just a quiet release of tension she has carried for months, maybe longer. Judge Caprio folds his hands one final time. The financial matter is resolved, but there is something else we need to discuss, and the weight of that sentence is heavier than the repayment itself. The repayment order hangs in the air, but the real judgment hasn't begun. The courtroom expects the gavel. Instead, Judge Caprio leans back in his chair, fingers steepled, eyes moving slowly from son to mother, and back again. The earlier tension has shifted into something different now, something reflective. "This is not just about money," he says quietly. The son straightens slightly, unsure. The mother remains still, waiting. "Sir, how long have you been managing your mother's finances?" The son clears his throat. "Since my father passed." The words change the atmosphere instantly. The elderly woman lowers her eyes. Her husband's absence fills the space between them like an unseen presence. The envelope on the table suddenly feels older, like it carries history, not just numbers. "How long ago was that?" Judge Caprio asks gently. 4 years. "And before that?" "My father handled everything." The judge nods slowly. "So when your father died, you stepped into a position of responsibility." "Yes." The son's voice is steadier now, not defensive, but subdued, tired. Judge Caprio tilts his head slightly. "Was it overwhelming?" A pause. "Yes," the son admits. The answer is softer than anything he's said all day. The mother's expression shifts, grief flickering through her eyes at the mention of her husband. She hasn't spoken his name in this courtroom, but everyone can feel him here. "He worked 40 years for that account," Judge Caprio says quietly. "Built it dollar by dollar." The son's jaw tightens again, not in defiance, but in memory. "I know," he says. "Did you think about him when you transferred that money?" the judge asks. The question is not accusatory, it's surgical. It cuts deeper than blame. The son doesn't respond immediately, and the courtroom gives him space to find the words. "I thought about keeping everything from falling apart," he says finally. "At what cost?" Judge Caprio asks. The words land softly, but they cut deep. The son looks toward his mother for the first time since the repayment order. Not defensive, not irritated, just unsure, vulnerable. She meets his gaze steadily. There's no triumph in her expression, only hurt and something else underneath it. Loss. The loss of what they used to be. Judge Caprio leans forward slightly. "You lost your father. Your mother lost her husband. A beat, but today she nearly lost her son's integrity." The courtroom stills completely. The son's breathing becomes visible now, shallow, uneven, fighting something back. The judge's voice lowers further, more personal than judicial. "Grief explains emotion. It does not excuse exploitation." The statement settles over the courtroom like a final layer of truth. The son swallows hard. For the first time since the hearing began, he looks not angry, not cornered, but exposed, stripped down to something raw and human. Judge Caprio studies him carefully, as if deciding whether to push further or let mercy into the room. Finally, he speaks again, "And I need to know something. When you moved that money, did you believe you were entitled to it?" The question hangs suspended in the air, and this time the son cannot answer quickly, cannot deflect. The words won't come. He tries to answer. The words catch somewhere between pride and honesty. Judge Caprio's question still hangs there, waiting. "When you moved that money, did you believe you were entitled to it?" The son inhales slowly, eyes fixed on the edge of the bench. His fingers press into his palms, knuckles paling. "I believed." He stops, recalculates, starts again. "I believed I would fix it before she noticed." The honesty lands harder than defiance ever did. Judge Caprio nods once, slowly. That was not my question. Another pause. The son closes his eyes briefly, as if calculating whether pride is still worth protecting. No, he says finally. I did not believe I was entitled. The admission changes everything in the room. The air feels thinner. Judge Caprio leans forward. Then why did you act as if you were? The son's breathing grows uneven. His composure, already fractured, begins to break down in visible increments. You can see it happening. The way his hands shake slightly when he tries to gesture, the way his voice wavers between anger and desperation. Because everything was collapsing, he blurts out. The business, the loans. I had employees counting on me, people with families. I had suppliers threatening to sue. I couldn't tell anyone. I couldn't look like I failed. His voice rises, not in anger, but desperation. The mask is coming off, piece by piece. Each word strips away another layer of the performance. I've spent my whole life trying not to disappoint anyone. My father built everything from nothing. Everyone always said I had his drive, his ambition. And then, when it started falling apart, I couldn't let people see that I wasn't him. The mother's eyes soften at that. It's the most honest thing he's said all day, and she knows it. She knows her son, knows the weight he's carried since his father died, but knowing doesn't excuse what he did. And you thought this wouldn't disappoint me, she asks gently. He finally looks at her, really looks. I thought if I fixed it fast enough you would never know. The sentence echoes. Judge Caprio leans forward slightly, voice calm but firm. So you gambled with her peace to protect your image. The son shakes his head weakly. Not her peace, just a portion of it. The judge's expression tightens almost imperceptibly. There is no portion of security at 90 years old. The son runs a hand through his hair. His composure fractures further, breaking down in slow motion. I didn't think she would say yes. She's always been careful, always cautious. I didn't want her to see me as irresponsible. The mother's grip on her cane loosens slightly. I would have said yes, she says, not loud, not dramatic, just certain. The son blinks rapidly now, something breaking behind his eyes. I would have helped you, she continues. All you had to do was ask. You would have worried, he whispers. I worry more now, she replies. That does it. His shoulders sag fully. The tension drains out of him like air from a punctured tire. The performance is gone. The excuses are thin. What remains is a son standing in front of his mother. Not a businessman, not a caretaker, just a man who made a selfish choice and got caught. Judge Caprio watches carefully, letting the moment breathe. You were not protecting her. You were protecting your pride. The son nods faintly, unable to speak. For the first time since he raised his voice in this courtroom, he looks ashamed. Not defensive, not argumentative. Ashamed. And in that quiet unravelling, the real case finally stands exposed. She doesn't hesitate. I would have. The son stares at her as if he doesn't recognize the woman standing in front of him. The same woman who packed his school lunches. The same woman who co-signed his first loan. The same woman he just accused of confusion in open court. I would have helped you, she repeats softly, each word deliberate. All you had to do was ask. Judge Caprio doesn't interrupt. He senses something coming, something the son doesn't see yet. The mother reaches slowly into her purse, not hurried, not dramatic, just deliberate. The faint sound of a zipper echoes in the quiet courtroom. Someone in the back row leans forward, trying to see what she's pulling out. She pulls out a folded document, aged, creased, carefully preserved. The paper looks official but old. You can see where it's been folded and unfolded many times, where fingers have held it, where maybe tears have fallen on it. Her hands tremble as she passes it to the bailiff, who brings it forward to the bench. Judge Caprio unfolds it slowly. His eyes scan the page. The son's brow furrows, confused. His head tilts slightly. He has no idea what this is. You can see him trying to figure it out, his eyes following the bailiff's movement, watching the judge's face for clues. "I updated it last year," the mother says gently. "After your father passed. I sat with Mrs. Henderson from down the street. She used to work at a law office. She helped me make sure everything was right." The judge reads carefully, his expression unchanging but attentive. He takes his time. This isn't something to rush. The courtroom is silent enough to hear fabric shift, someone clearing their throat in the back, the faint hum of the overhead lights. The mother's voice remains steady, though her hands betray her emotion. They haven't stopped shaking since she pulled out the document. "I set aside money for you, for your business, in case you ever needed it." The son's breathing stops. His face goes completely still. Judge Caprio looks up from the document, eyes moving between mother and son. "I didn't want you to struggle the way we did when we were young," she continues. "Your father and I talked about it. We wanted you to have security." Judge Caprio clears his throat softly. "The amount allocated to you," he says quietly, reading from the document, "is $25,000. The number lands like a physical blow. It echoes through the courtroom. 25,000, 2,000 more than he took. The son's face drains of colour. His mouth opens slightly, but no words come out. "I was waiting," the mother says, voice finally cracking, "for the right time to tell you." A tear slips down her cheek, not dramatic, not theatrical, just human, real. The son's hands come up to his face, covering his mouth. His eyes fill. "You did not lose money today," Judge Caprio says evenly, eyes on the son. "You lost trust. You were already going to receive what you took, legally, lovingly." The courtroom absorbs this in stunned stillness. The mother's cane shifts slightly as she steadies herself. "I wanted you to respect me," she whispers, "not manage me." The son looks at her now, really looks at her, and something inside him breaks. Completely. Irreparably. He didn't steal out of necessity. He stole out of fear, and in doing so he destroyed the very gift that was waiting for him. Judge Caprio removes his glasses, voice low and measured. "Some debts are financial, and some are moral." He pauses, letting that sink in. "This was never about whether you needed the money. You already had access to it. This was about whether you respected her enough to ask." The son's eyes fill, not with defiance, not with argument, with realization, with the crushing weight of understanding what he's done, what he's lost. The revelation lingers in the air. $25,000, waiting, promised, freely given, if only he had asked. The son stands frozen, the weight of it pressing visibly against his chest. His earlier arguments now feel hollow, almost absurd in hindsight. The courtroom doesn't judge him with noise, it judges him with stillness. Judge Caprio folds the will carefully and hands it back to the bailiff. "This," he says calmly, "is what trust looks like on paper." The mother wipes her cheek gently with the corner of a tissue. She doesn't look triumphant, she doesn't look vindicated, she looks tired, worn down by this entire process. "I didn't bring that to shame you," she says to her son. "I brought it because I needed you to understand." Her voice trembles but doesn't break. The son shakes his head slowly, eyes fixed downward, unable to meet anyone's gaze. "I thought I was running out of options," he whispers. "You were running out of honesty," Judge Caprio corrects quietly. The words land without judgment, just fact. "Financially, the order stands, full repayment, court costs, but I need you to understand something deeper." He leans forward slightly, hands resting on the bench. "When someone your mother's age loses money, they lose time, and time cannot be repaid." The courtroom absorbs that. The son nods slightly, but it's unclear if he truly understands yet. At 90, the judge continues, security is not about wealth. It's about peace, about sleeping without fear, about knowing the people you trust won't betray you.
The son swallows hard. The mother straightens slowly, leaning on her cane. Despite everything, there's dignity in her posture, strength that has been there all along, just waiting to be seen. I didn't want to come here, she admits softly, but I needed him to see me. The son looks up at that. See me, not manage me, not control me. See me. Judge Caprio studies both of them, not as adversaries anymore, but as family fractured by pride and fear. This could have been far worse, he says evenly. In another courtroom, this might have involved criminal charges. Elder financial abuse is a serious offense. The word criminal hangs uncomfortably in the air. The son's face pales further. I am choosing to keep this civil, the judge continues, because I believe this is not a story of greed. It is a story of fear. The son's breathing steadies slightly, not relieved, but aware of mercy being extended. But fear does not excuse harm, Judge Caprio finishes firmly. The envelope on the table lies open now, nothing hidden inside it anymore. The truth is exposed, the illusion dismantled. Judge Caprio turns to the son one more time. Are you prepared to apologize, not to this court, but to your mother? The question doesn't demand volume. It demands humility, and the entire courtroom waits to see if he has any left. He turns toward her slowly, like a child again, like he's 7 years old and just broke something valuable. For a moment, it looks as though he might speak, but the words stall somewhere between pride and regret. His throat tightens. You can see him swallow once, twice. His hands flex at his sides, uncertain what to hold on to now that control is gone. The courtroom does not rush him. Even the people in the gallery seem to hold their breath. Judge Caprio says nothing. He's given hundreds of verdicts, heard thousands of apologies. He knows the difference between words and meaning. The mother stands waiting, cane planted firmly against the floor. She does not step closer. She does not step away, just waits. Her eyes never leave her son's face. The son finally inhales. It's shaky, uncertain. I'm sorry, he says. It sounds small, too small, like something you'd say after bumping into someone at the grocery store. Rehearsed. Safe. Judge Caprio's voice cuts gently through the space. Try again. Not cruel, not loud, just firm. Compassionate but uncompromising. The kind of guidance a father might give, or should give. The son nods once, swallowing hard. He looks directly at his mother now, not past her, not over her shoulder, not at the floor, at her, into her eyes, and it costs him something to hold that gaze. I was wrong, he says, voice shaking. I should have asked you. I should have trusted you. The words come slower now, more deliberate. You trusted me, and I broke that. I thought I was protecting us, but I was protecting myself. I was ashamed that I needed help. The mother studies his face carefully, searching, not for excuses, but for sincerity, for truth. I raised you to be strong, she says quietly. You did, he replies. Strong men ask when they need help, she says. The line settles into him like an anchor. His shoulders dip further. A tear escapes before he can stop it. He wipes it away quickly, embarrassed, but doesn't retreat from the moment, doesn't look away. I'm sorry for embarrassing you, he says, for yelling at you, for trying to make you look confused. That one costs him. His voice cracks slightly. The mother nods once, not in full forgiveness, not yet. Just acknowledgement, recognition that he's trying. I just want my son back, she says. The simplicity of it strips away everything else. No lectures, no ultimatums, no conditions, just that. The son takes a cautious half-step closer. I'm here, he whispers. The words are not triumphant. They're tentative, fragile, like glass held carefully in shaking hands. Judge Caprio reaches for the gavel slowly but doesn't strike it yet. He looks at the mother one more time. Do you accept his apology? He asks gently. She looks at her son, long and steady. The courtroom holds its breath. "I accept that he is trying," she says finally. "It's not full restoration, it's not instant healing. But it's a beginning. And in this courtroom, beginnings matter. The verdict is already known, but the lesson is not." Judge Caprio rests his hand lightly on the gavel, not lifting it yet. "Legally, this case is straightforward," he begins calmly. "You will repay the full $23,000 within 30 days. Court costs will be added. If the funds are not returned, judgment will enter against you." The words are steady, formal, final. The son nods. There's no resistance left in him now. But Judge Caprio doesn't stop there. He leans back slightly, expression thoughtful. This court handles many financial disputes, but when the parties are family, the damage is rarely just financial. He looks at the mother, then at the son. At 90 years old, a person's greatest asset is not money. It is dignity. The word settles over the courtroom. When you raised your voice at your mother in this courtroom, you did more than defend yourself. You diminished her. The son's eyes close briefly, shame etched into his features. "Authority over someone's affairs is not a trophy," Judge Caprio continues. "It is a privilege, and privileges require restraint." A pause. "Power does not make you stronger. It tests whether you deserve it." The mother shifts her weight slightly. The envelope rests flat on the table. It no longer looks fragile. It looks resolved. Judge Caprio leans back. "I am not referring this matter for criminal review because I believe today's exposure has already delivered consequence." The son exhales, not in relief, but in understanding. "But understand this clearly," the judge adds. "If this happens again, mercy will not be part of the conversation." The line lands firmly. The son nods once more, eyes still downcast. Judge Caprio turns gently toward the mother. "Ma'am, you did the right thing by standing up for yourself." Her chin lifts slightly. "Age does not erase your voice, and no one, not even family, has the right to silence it." A faint shimmer of light slips through the courtroom window, catching in her silver hair. The son glances at her again, this time not with frustration, but with awareness, with something that might eventually become respect again. Judge Caprio rests his hand fully on the gavel now. Respect is not inherited. It is earned. The weight of that sentence lingers longer than any ruling. And before the final strike falls, the room understands that this was never just about money. It was about how easily love can turn into control, and how hard it is to reclaim dignity once it has been questioned. The gavel falls, but gently. The sound doesn't echo like thunder. It lands soft, controlled, deliberate, as if even justice understands the fragility of what stands before it. As if Judge Caprio knows that this family doesn't need another blow. They need a path forward. This matter is resolved. No applause, no dramatic reaction, no one stands up, no one rushes forward, just stillness. The kind of quiet that follows something significant, something that changed people. The son remains standing for a moment longer than necessary, absorbing the weight of everything that has unfolded. The repayment order, the exposure, the apology, the will, the realization of what he's lost and what he must rebuild. His suit looks less expensive now. His watch catches the light but means less somehow. The mother adjusts her grip on her cane and looks at him. Not as a plaintiff, not as a victim, not even as someone who just won a case. As a mother, as someone who brought a life into this world and watched it grow and now has to watch it learn one of life's hardest lessons. Judge Caprio removes his glasses one final time, folding them slowly in his hands. The gesture is practiced, familiar. He's done this thousands of times, but this case, like every case involving family, carries its own unique weight. "Sir," he says, voice steady but reflective, "accountability is not cruelty. It is opportunity." The son nods faintly. "You have the chance to repair more than a bank balance," the judge continues. "Do not waste it." The words are not dramatic. They're measured. That makes them heavier. The clerk gathers the paperwork. The envelope that once felt like evidence now feels like closure. It lies flat on the table, empty of secrets. Judge Caprio turns to the mother. Ma'am, standing up for yourself took courage. You protected your dignity today. She offers a small nod. A quiet breath leaves her lips. Not relief exactly, but release. The son finally steps closer. There's hesitation in his movement, not fear, humility. He reaches out his hand. For a fraction of a second, she studies it. Not suspicious, just careful. Then she places her smaller hand in his. The gesture is not triumphant. It's fragile. A beginning, not a conclusion. Judge Caprio watches, expression unreadable but softened. Court is adjourned. The gavel rests back in its place. As the courtroom begins to empty, there's no sense of victory, only reflection. The son doesn't speak again. He simply walks beside his mother, matching her slower pace. The distance between them is no longer filled with accusation. It's filled with possibility. Justice did not roar today. It whispered. It didn't destroy a family. It held up a mirror. Arrogance shouted at the beginning of this hearing, but in the end, truth spoke quieter. And it was heard, because money can be repaid. Reputation can recover. But dignity, once questioned, demands to be defended. And in this courtroom, it was. What do you think about Judge Caprio's decision? Should he have pushed for criminal charges? Drop your thoughts in the comments below. I read every single one. And if this story made you think twice about family and trust, share it with someone who needs to hear it.